And welcome to another edition, the first edition of the fall 2016-2017 academic year weather and climate chat with your hosts, Monsoon Mike Regensberger and resident campus meteorologist and geography professor, Dr. Michael Davis. Dr. Davis, welcome to a new year.
It's a new fall.
Yeah, and
Welcome back, everyone.
we tried to keep it going throughout the summer, but you and I both got a little busy, so it was more hit or miss than not. But hey, at least we kept it generally going with at least one a month, so that wasn't too bad. Sometimes a couple a month. All right, here we are, August 29th, and it's another toasty day, and that seems to have been the theme of the summer of 2016, toasty.
Yeah, we've had a lot of heat this past summer, which in meteorological terms goes June, July, August. So.
Right.
This Wednesday is the 31st. That's the last day of meteorological summer. So Thursday is the first day of meteorological autumn. So we're approaching that. And I was checking the numbers before coming on air, and we've had a lot of warmth, so much so that Philadelphia, for example, has had 38 days of 90-degree heat or more.
Wow.
And Allentown's had 33.
So
And in Allentown, for example, the average is 17.
I was just going to ask you, what's the average?
So we've almost doubled our number.
So-
And we may hit 90 today. Who knows?
And we could hit 90. Tomorrow might be a little bit harder to hit 90. I know we're going to be more in the mid-80s.
We have a weak cold front
yeah.
swinging through today, although it's pretty moisture-starved, so I don't think we're going to get any precipitation out of it.
Wednesday is possible to hit 90. I know AccuWeather has Wednesday at 87, but I've heard some forecasts flirt with 90. So that's a possibility. We'll see because it's going to warm up again. We do have a nice break, almost early fall-like break, similar to the early fall-like break that we had around this time last week. Remember that?
Yes.
Where we had nights, some areas of the. I actually happened to be down in Rehoboth Beach last week for a last-minute vacation, and so it wasn't as cool down there as it was up here. But some of my friends told me that northern Poconos even made it into the upper 40s some nights last week.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a cool spell that came
Right.
through. I think temperatures around this area, like high temperatures, were in the upper 70s in some locations. So it's really refreshing after getting those 90-degree days.
And it looks like we have
last week.
something very similar happening later this week. We have the weak cool front tonight, early tomorrow. Then we have a more powerful cold front coming through, I believe, like Wednesday p.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, looks like we have trouble hitting 80, so that'll be pretty nice.
Especially for Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
It looks nice for any sort of outdoor activity.
In fact, we might even have some people complaining that it's too cool for Labor Day weekend. Can't please everybody. You know how that goes.
No, we can't.
But I personally prefer this. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And then looks like this general pattern of above normal temperatures sticks with us because then right back like a boomerang next week. We're back in above normal. Normal highs next week, 79, 78, 80 degrees, and we're going to be, according to AccuWeather, 84, 85, 86, 87. So
we're looking 5-10 degrees above average.
Now, why does this keep happening? Why do we have these little shots only to zip right back up again?
Pretty much, let's take the case this week, for example, where you have the cold front come through, and generally behind cold fronts, the wind's out of the northwest.
Right.
So it's generally cooler, drier air that you have up in Canada, so it knocks temperatures down a little bit.
Yeah.
But then after the front passes and the winds come from the north, typically you have more of a calm kind of weather associated with a high-pressure system. And as the high-pressure system moves over our area, the winds die down, so in which case there's less mixing of the air, and temperatures can heat up. You also have the high pressure that can move further toward the east of our location, say offshore, off the eastern coast.
Sure.
And then winds shift out of the south. And anytime you get winds out of the south, that's bringing up the warm, moist air, say, from Florida, where the air mass is originating.
Right. So that's general, and that seems to be the pattern that we're going to be experiencing. I was reading AccuWeather's, speaking of AccuWeather, their fall forecast, and they're agreeing with the National Weather Service that we stay fairly above average temperature-wise throughout the fall. And it says that's not to mean that we're not going to have some nice cool shots. We're going to have some shots where could even go a little bit below normal.
Chances are you're going to be seeing above average.
But
that's what
averaging.
they're trying to get at. But
chances are you're going to average once it's all said and done on the high side of normal. So,
yes.
And it looks like that continues. Other than that, there's really not been a whole lot to talk about the past few weeks. It's been a fairly benign pattern here, at least, where we have these warm, sunny days, these cool nights. Some days it's humid, and then it cools down a little bit. But that's not been the case in other parts of the country where there's been some pretty rough weather down in Louisiana, and now we have the tropics starting to get pretty active. So let's talk a little bit about that. What happened in Louisiana?
With Louisiana, you had a low pressure system that pretty much sat over the Gulf of Mexico and became stationary.
Was that a tropical low pressure system or a regular low pressure?
Well, it was more low pressure, but it had tropical origins. It
characteristics,
didn't really
yeah.
have any actual like tropical characteristics like you might think of with, say, tropical storms or hurricanes, but it just had a lot of moisture associated with it. So as a result of it not moving, you just had this big moisture plume of precipitation that just kept coming and coming into Louisiana, and you had a tremendous amount of rainfall. I believe some areas got 3 feet of rain over the weekend. That's an incredible amount of rain.
That's incredible.
In that period of time.
Yeah.
Now, when you start talking about Louisiana itself, the Mississippi River Delta down southern Louisiana and even a little bit further up the Mississippi, it's quite flat. So if that rain comes in, it pretty much can accumulate and it really won't move very much. That's what we saw with Katrina back in 2005 when you had all that massive flooding because the water came in and it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
So we had that same situation pretty much develop here. In fact, the Red Cross just last week said that this is the worst natural disaster we've seen since Sandy.
Wow.
Because you've had so much rain, so much destruction from the floodwaters, so many people displaced or lost their homes, it pretty much rivals that storm.
And it's interesting from a media perspective. Yeah, the media has been covering this a lot, but I don't seem to notice quite as much coverage as when we, for example, have had like a Sandy or a Katrina. And maybe that's just because, with storms like that, you have all the hype. We got this big hurricane coming, whereas this was just like your ordinary low pressure system that's just sort of parked over the state, and that was it.
It's more or less sensational.
Yeah, it's a sensational
because you have this extreme
just,
tropical system, and you get that pretty picture.
Yeah.
You have the fear that could potentially be generated from it. You have the strong winds. It's a very broad catastrophic storm with a tropical system like that. But when you start talking about flooding, it's really not that exciting compared to those types of systems. So,
but just
the
as
media
destructive.
Yes, very much so.
Even more so. I mean, your house is buried underwater. I mean, it didn't maybe blow away with 150 mile an hour winds, but your house is buried under 3 feet of water. So
yes. So while it's not as sensational or perhaps sexy is the word I use.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Still is devastating. And catastrophic.
I know what you mean. I got you.
So many words I'm trying to describe.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, Dr. Davis, it looks like this concern for more activity anywhere along the Gulf Coast, anywhere along the East Coast, looks pretty high this fall because this looks like it's shaping up to be a fairly active tropical season, which we should mention is just for more or less reason. I mean, it's been going on since the beginning of June is when the tropical season officially starts. But traditionally, historically, things don't really start ramping up until August, September, even October.
August 20th is typically when we start to enter the peak of hurricane
So we're just
season.
only getting to the peak right now.
And the late, great Bill Gray would always ring a bell on August 20th to signify that we're getting to the peak of hurricane season. And climatologically, September 10th is the peak in hurricane season. That has to deal with the sun being at its highest for most of the summer, heating up the northern Atlantic, and you have the warmest waters generated by that point. So there's a lot of fuel potentially for these storms to get going and develop, and we have 3 such storms or areas of interest right now out in the Atlantic.
Right. Fortunately, I mean, there was a couple computer models last week. I think it was the GFS and the CMC that were going crazy with this one storm. But fortunately, that has not really generated.
Was that 99L?
I believe so, yeah. I think the GFS, one particular run, and you know how these people online are. They see one run, and oh my God, I think one run had like a Category 4 hurricane coming up the East Coast, and of course, 5 minutes later, that changed. But
one had going over Louisiana.
One had it going over Louisiana. Oh my God, that would have been the end.
Horrible.
That would have been the end, unfortunately. But fortunately, that doesn't look to be happening. But that's not to say that something like that couldn't still happen because we've got a long way to go in a very active tropical season potentially coming up.
Yeah, we have a lot of activity going on right now, and we're still in the peak of it. And hurricane season doesn't end until about the end of November.
Now, I heard a couple people say that the waters are a little warmer than normal this year. Is that true? Could that play into this as well?
I checked the Gulf of Mexico temperatures this morning, and they were anywhere from the mid to upper 80s.
Wow.
So there's a lot of warm water there that can be used as fuel for these storms.
That's not even refreshing to take a dip in. It's almost like bathwater.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
When we had the 200005 hurricane season, the really active one where we had to go through all the names and go to the Greek alphabet,
I
and
remember
had
that.
the storms like Katrina, Wilma, Rita.
Yep.
The temperatures there were in the upper 80s, low 90s.
Okay.
So we did have a lot of warmth there, and Katrina, when she crossed over Florida, entered the Gulf as a Category 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And 24 hours later, she was a Cat 5.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that just goes to show how quickly
how juicy it is.
These systems can intensify. And scientists are not exactly sure as to what causes these rapid intensifications of tropical systems.
Would you say that any particular part of the country is more under the gun than another part, the Gulf versus the East Coast or East Coast versus the Gulf, or is anybody open for a game at this point?
For this year or climatologically?
Either.
Climatologically, Florida sees a lot of hurricanes because they
right.
stick out in the ocean pretty much.
Right.
And the second highest amount typically doesn't come to mind very much, but that is the Outer Banks, North Carolina.
That's a good point.
Because if you look at the shape of the eastern U.S. seaboard, North Carolina really butts out there. So if a storm's coming up, say, parallel to the Florida coast, it's going to smash right into, say, Cape Hatteras, Nags Head.
And actually, they are going to get a little activity over the next few days, fortunately with nothing catastrophic, but perhaps with some heavy rains with this tropical
With Tropical Depression 8 that's out there.
And I think it's forecast to become a storm.
In which case it would be Hermine.
Hermine, I believe. Yeah.
Might be Hermione, I don't know.
But that storm is not forecast to really become too severe before it would curve out to sea before any major problems.
Correct, because the cold front that's swinging through today is pretty much going to get down to the Carolinas by Wednesday, Thursday, when they're thinking the storm's going to get near the coast and then keep it pretty much out to sea. Now, it depends on how fast that front actually comes down. Some models and some meteorologists I've seen online have been saying it may not get down there as quickly as what the models are saying, so perhaps it comes inland a little bit, then gets kicked out.
Still, we're not talking about a catastrophic storm, but potentially some heavy vacation-ruining plans down there.
And I don't believe it's going to get to hurricane strength.
I don't think so either, from what I saw.
It should stay tropical storm strength. Now, Tropical Depression 9, which was 99L just a few days ago.
Right.
That one looks like that could develop potentially into a hurricane, but I'm still thinking it's going to stay tropical storm.
Okay.
That's the one that's entering the Gulf of Mexico right now. It's being undergoing a lot of wind shear right now from a low pressure that's sitting off the South Carolina coast. So it's got winds coming from the north. So you have kind of more drier air being brought down, and all the convection's pretty much to the south of the center of circulation. So it's really not looking that vibrant.
Okay.
But once it gets into a calmer, potentially more conducive environment in the Gulf, we'll see what happens. But you have a low-pressure system across the southern Great Plains that's going to be coming in Wednesday, Thursday, and moving it pretty much into the panhandle of Florida.
Okay. Well, we've got a lot to watch. So the long and short of it is we have a lot to watch this coming month or so with the tropics, and hopefully that this is always a good time to be prepared. We are inland a little bit. We don't really usually experience the wrath of the worst of a hurricane, but we came pretty close with storms like Sandy and Irene, and where there were trees down and power lines down for days and days. So this is always a good time to make sure you're prepared. Have a plan.
Have your plan in place before you have to enact it.
Right, which is always a good thing to do. All right, so that's the long and short of that story. We have a fairly active tropic season, and you can always follow the updates on my page and your page as well as we get through that. The other fun thing we want to do this fall, and we've been talking about this for a few months now, and again, this is no disrespect to AccuWeather because they're wonderful people there, but something new that they started doing, this past spring?
Spring, summer, something around there.
They had their extended forecast years ago, used to be 15 days, and then it expanded to 30, and then it was 45 days. Now they're issuing a 90-day forecast, right down to specific highs and lows and precipitation.
And from a meteorological standpoint, it's 90-day forecast. You're not going to get a lot out of, or at least accuracy. So you have to take these with a grain of salt.
Right. And I if I were them, I would question doing this because, you're going to always have that person that's like, oh, look at that. On Thanksgiving, it's going to be an ice storm. And right away, planning their whole year of Thanksgiving meal around something that's so vague. But AccuWeather argues that they're doing this just to give people a general idea of what to expect.
And that's pretty much what you should take this for.
Right. Is a general
You don't
idea.
take this as is. Like, for example, I'm looking at it right now, and what is this? October 30th?
Yeah. Well, my sheets came out a little bit weird.
54 degrees. Mostly cloudy, a little rain. You shouldn't be expecting exactly 54 degrees. You're probably going to be in that general area temperature-wise, but it very well could not rain on October 30th.
And they give you the average, the historic average highs and lows, and then they also give you their prognostication. Their prognostications, what is this based off of? Is this based off of the GFS model, one of their own models, or what? The longest the GFS goes out is, like 384 hours or something like that?
Yes, it only goes out for
about
weeks. 2 weeks
or
so.
So this is obviously going way out past that. What is this, their own formula coming up with this stuff?
They're probably doing more in the way of really long-term weather forecasts, so maybe more like climate models, I guess you could consider it as. Or they're probably relying more on climatology and
what's happened in years past.
On that.
So what you and I are going to have fun doing is I've pledged, and I know you're busy, I'm busy, but I'm going to make an honest effort to. I printed it out today on August 29th, the 90-day forecast for Kutztown, PA, and I'm going to do my best to every day up until the end of the 90 days, which ends on. Looks like the last day that they're officially forecasting for is November 26th, so 2 days after Thanksgiving, the day after Black Friday, the beginning of the Christmas season. I'm gonna keep track, and I'm gonna write down what happened each of those days and the official high and low. Now, we don't have a weather station here on campus, but you're working on that.
I'm working on it.
That can be another topic. But I'll check the Allentown and the Reading. Those are our two nearest cities, highs and lows, and I'll average it. And we'll see how close this forecast, how their 90-day forecast does.
And I will say, looking at this, that the last week that we're looking at, all the temperatures are below average.
Yeah, I'm actually looking to that whole final
even
month.
Even into November, pretty much.
Yeah, that whole final month looks like it drops to below average. So it looks like September looks like we stayed generally at or above normal. October, it looks like we about at or above normal, maybe slight, But it looks like November, you're right. Once we get to November, it looks like generally on the at or below normal. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm watching my 40th birthday. That's my big day that my wife's planning for, and it's been pretty consistent. I've been watching it, and it's generally averaged 68 to 72. Low clouds may break. I like that. I like those very specific ways they write things. Low clouds may break on my birthday. Okay. So the low clouds of getting old will break.
I have mostly sunny on mine. My birthday.
On October. Okay, on your birthday.
October 18th.
Oh, you're October 18th. Oh, we're even close with our birthdays. Okay. Yeah, 66. So we'll see how this goes. But generally, we're looking at an above normal September, at or above normal October, and maybe a below normal November, but that's a long way off. So it'll be fun to see, and who knows? Maybe after 90 days we'll eat crow, and we'll be like, you know what? That 90-day forecast was pretty darn close. So we'll see how
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, and we'll have fun with that. So anything else, Dr. Davis, that you want to throw out there? You class-wise, you have a busy semester coming up?
Yeah, I'm teaching for the first time my global warming and climate change class.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes.
That sounds fun.
I'm excited about it. I've already had 4 students come tell me that they're excited for it as well.
Yep.
So there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm about it. I'm happy to teach it. I think it'll be a good semester.
I think it'll be a great semester. All right, Dr. Davis, remind folks how they can link up with you on Facebook. You have your own weather page like I do.
Yes, Dr. Michael Davis's Weather Forecasts.
Okay, and Monsoon Mike's Weather Headquarters, as you know. And We'll try to make. Oh, were you going to say something?
And Rosby says happy birthday to Sooty.
That's right. It was Sooty the Weather Cat's big birthday, big 5th birthday the other day. We actually know his exact day that he was born, so that was a valid birthday. That wasn't something we just made up.
We don't know Rosby's.
Yeah.
But we just
that's the way it is with our
generally go around Memorial
our
Day.
other 3 cats we kind of estimate, but this cat we actually know exactly when he was born based on when the people who had him before told us. So, happy birthday to Sooty! And
for those of you who don't know, Sooty and Rosby are respective mascot cats.
Respective mascot weather cats.
Yes.
Does your cat really care about the weather like mine does? Mine will actually sit and watch the snow fall or the wind blow. Does Rosby sit and watch? Okay,
he does.
Good. Then they're living up to their name then.
Yep.
That's very good. All right, Dr. Davis, we're going to try to keep this on a Monday schedule, so you can expect these podcasts every Monday and or Tuesday for the coming semesters. Have a great day.
You too.